Have you ever thought about growing your own tobacco? Whether it's for blending, experimenting, or just for the love of the process, this all starts with super tiny seeds. These little guys will grow into big, leafy tobacco plants if you treat them just right. But tobacco has a long growing season. So you need to start these indoors and give them a head start before the warm weather kicks in. In today's video, I'm going to be bringing you guys through the entire beginning process of starting your own tobacco plants from seeds. And we'll do step by steps, the soil, the seeds, everything that you need, any additional tips that I have for you so that you can turn seeds into plants and eventually fully processed leaves. Grab a drink, maybe a pipe, and let's get into this. So first off, you're gonna need tobacco seeds. These are a lot smaller than your regular vegetable seeds, so we do have to be a lot more careful when sowing them. This year particularly, since I spent the past couple of years doing a big run of Burleys, and then last year we did Bosma, I wanted to get some Carolina Brights this year. Next, you're gonna need your seed trays. You can also use small containers like a Tupperware, just poke holes in the bottom, and as long as you have something that you can put soil in, you can still sow these. I just personally enjoy these deeper cells here with the liquid catch underneath. On to grow lights. They're completely optional, but if you don't have sunny windowsills, then the seeds are going to need a lot of help. You're going to have some kind of artificial growing light. I have a bigger setup here because we've been doing it for a couple of years, so it doesn't have to be anything like this. It just has to be some artificial light or a good windowsill where they can get a lot of sunlight. One additional thing that we do with ours is I use heat mats. This does help speed up the germination, especially if your house is on the cooler side, and I live in an area where it gets a little cooler even in my house. So I use the heat mats to make sure that the soil is staying a nice warm temperature so that the germination process speeds up and I can get my plants ready for transplant quicker. Next up is the potting soil. You don't have to get super crazy with this. I like potting mix, Miracle-Gro, and then I also grab the Jiffy Natural Organic Seed Starter Mix because this has more peat, and we don't want it to be too moist for the seeds with just the potting mix because it can produce mold, which will either slow or completely kill your germination of your seeds. And finally, a handy dandy spray bottle. This has got to be absolutely nothing fancy. Mine's broke on one side and barely works, but it does everything that I need for being able to give the seeds a little bit of moisture that they need. Tobacco has a long growing season, so you want to make sure that you're starting your seeds 8 to 10 weeks before the last frost. If you plant them too late, your plants may not mature at the end of the year. For example, if you're in Ohio like me, that means starting your seeds around February or March. If you're in a warmer climate, you got a little bit more flexibility. And once your plants are big enough, they need to be hardened off, which is just a fancy way of saying don't shock them by throwing them out too fast. But we're going to get to that later. All right, let's talk about the dirt. So tobacco seedlings need a light, well-drained soil mix. Something that's fluffy, not too rich, definitely not hard gardening soil. Here is my go-to mix. Like I showed earlier, we're just using regular potting soil from Miracle-Gro, and then we're gonna be adding in the seed starting mix from Jiffy. Normally I just take these little handfuls and kind of just sprinkle it all over the top. When you're doing a tray like this, I usually use about 2 or 3 handfuls and just mix it in. Makes it nice and light, fluffy, and just give it a good mix. And this just helps promote the draining of the water because like we said before, you don't want to have the mold affecting the germination of your plants later on. And then now it's time for us to get this over into our actual tray with the liner underneath to collect the water, and then we can start putting all the seeds in. once you've got your soil mix ready, it's time to set up your growing area. You're going to put your seed trays in a warm spot, ideally 70 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit for the best germination. If you've got a grow light like I have here, place it a few inches above the tray. If not, a sunny windowsill works too, but growth may be a little bit slower if you're not doing an artificial light. I have the setup that I have here, which is a couple of racks with some grow lights above them, zip tied to the top so that I have it about 3 to 4 inches above my seed trays. It's naturally humid in our area, so just some spritzing here and there of the seeds and it works perfectly. Now for the fun part, and that is planting the seeds. But there is a trick. You do not bury them. Tobacco seeds are very, very tiny and they need the light to germinate. And as you can see, when I say tiny, I mean they are just literally specks inside the bag. So this is how I process my seeds. I take the bags and I got some fat fingers, so I'll pour them into this bowl here and single them out there. All right, so you see the seeds here. It's really not a lot, but the thing that is nice about having these small seeds is that you can wet your finger and pick them up and just get 1 to 2 seeds at a time, which will allow you to put 1 to 3 seeds per cell to be able to start the germination. Starting off, I make sure that I water each of my cells. About 2 squirts from a spray bottle per cell, nothing too crazy. Like I said before, you want to make sure that you're not over hydrating these seeds. All right, now we have our hydrated cells and it's time to go ahead and put our seeds in. Like I said, I take the bowl that I have with all my seeds here, I take my finger and I try to get 2 to 3 seeds per one and just sprinkle it in the cell. All right, now that I have all of the cells seeded, I just take a light finger and kind of pack it down just ever so slightly. You're not wanting to actually bury this, you're just wanting to make sure that the seed gets nice and down into the moist soil. Then I do 1 more little spritz over everything. And your seeds are ready to put under the light. Alright, so here is what you have to expect over the next few weeks. Week 1 to 2, you're going to see some tiny green sprouts appear. Keep the humidity up and make sure that you're watering them. Week 3 to 4, your first true leaves are going to start to show. Week 5 to 6, your seedlings are going to get stronger. You can start watering them a little bit more instead of misting. Week 7 to 8, your plants should be big enough to move into larger pots before transitioning outdoors. And as you've seen here, this is my last year's blend and mix. So I did Bosma and the year before was Burley. But this is my process that I've done for the past 2.5 years. And once they get to this stage, they're getting ready for the next big step, which is transplanting the plants outside. But we're going to save that for another video. And that's really it. Growing tobacco from seeds step by step. If you follow these basics, you'll have strong plants ready for the growing season. It's a really, really fun process that I have enjoyed over the years. If you don't plan on making your own blends, there's something satisfying about growing your own leaf and having a tobacco in your field. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments below. I'd love to hear them. And if you're enjoying this kind of content, make sure that you follow, like, and subscribe down below. So in part 2, we're going to be talking about actually hardening off your plants, the growth of the plants, what you need to expect when you put them into the ground outside, and all of those fun things. So if you enjoyed the video, please comment, like, and subscribe down below, and I'll see you all in the next video.